Hello and welcome. This is Lucas, and now we're going to talk about the float. So floating, we're going to add some funky behavior to our website once more. And this one is quite tricky. So you will see it very often. It's a very commonly used feature. And sometimes if you don't know how it works, you may get yourself in some trouble. So let's explain how this works, and we'll create a new div. So div is like a rubber band, always remember div. Okay, and inside that div we'll put another div. Okay, actually let's put two divs. Okay, first one and second div. Okay, so let's go to first div. Let's give it a class. We'll give that class a name. Okay, floating. Okay, so we say the divs inside will be floating. Okay, and let's give that class here some style. Okay, first of all, let's give the color so we actually can see it. Background color is set to red. It's very easily seen. And minimum height of, say, 100 pixels. Okay, so can we see it already? Yes, we can. Okay, so we have two divs inside, and the first one we want to float to the left, and the other one we want to float to the right. So the first one, they're all both on the same height, and the first one will be on the left side, and the other one will be on the right hand side. So I can say class float left, and this one will get class float right. And actually some people, when they have those double names, they just use hyphen. I like to use underscore, but I think it would be better if we do it with dash. Sorry. Okay, so let's go back to our styles and let's give those divs also some style. So we say float. Actually, I do not remember. Let me see. It's float left. Okay, float left. And we give it a color of blue and minimum height of 50 pixels. Float right. And we got background color orange and minimum height also 50. Okay, let's have not this button. Let's refresh our both containers now fill the whole 100 pixels, okay? And they're one under the other. So let's make sure they can be side by side so they can fit. So by default, they would stretch to 100% of the width. So let's make them to be 50% wide each. Okay, so width 50%. And here 50% too. Let's refresh. Okay, now we have a space, but they still stuck one under the other. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna float them now. So the blue will go to the left and the orange will go to the right. So we say float left. Okay, and this one will say float right. Okay, let's refresh. There we go. Now the blue is on the left and orange is on the right. Actually, what we can do, we can also do, we can make them a little bit smaller than 50%, so you can actually see the background. because there is something very important I want to show you. So I make it to 40 and 40 here. Save that. Refresh. Okay, now they are inside of the red container. But the red container has the minimum height of 100 pixels. So let's see what's going to happen when we make it much smaller, say this small, if it's going to stretch or not to contain those two remaining divs. So floating container, let's change it to 20 pixels high and refresh. Okay, and now you see how this is messing up everything, okay? It's messing everything because now part of the menu got trapped in the gap here, and this kind of, those both divs stick out of the red div. We want the red div to stretch, but the minute that we have elements that float, the div is not stretching anymore. It kind of treats them like they had no height. So there is a way to fix that, and it's a hackish way, and the one I'm going to show you is probably not the best one, and it's not covering all the cases, but it's going to fix it on our browser. It's not going to work perfectly in Internet Explorer, so please check it out. So what we're going to do is to add another style to our floating container. So floating container, let's say after, we're going to add its style. So we say content and give it empty string. We say display as table. Please don't ask me why, but this kind of works. And we will also say that we want to clear both sides. Okay. Let's refresh and see if our divs will stretch. There we go. Our div stretched, and it contains both floating divs. We can also make the orange div float to the left, and they kind of be stuck on the left-hand side. So we have to override this. Left. Yeah. There we go, so they're both on the left. This is very useful if you're working with your layout, because sometimes you just want to have things side by side. But be very careful that you actually clear. This process clearing. It's called clearing. Is that you clear the container that contains floating elements, because it's very easy to miss. Here you have colors, but if they're transparent, then you will just not see it. And sometimes you might be lucky, but most of the time you won't. So pay attention to that. Okay, that's it for this time, and I see you in the next podcast.